The private helipad at high noon. The sun screams off a multi-million-dollar helicopter, mirroring the tension in the air. Jack Turner, a single father in a faded janitor's jumpsuit, mops the floor with invisible precision. His son, Noah, watches from the shadows. Elite engineers surround the aircraft, sweat-soaked and defeated by flashing error codes. Evelyn Cross, the ice-cold CEO, scoffs at Jack. "He's just a janitor," she sneers. "He wouldn't know a turbine from a toaster." Jack pauses for 1 second. The engine is dead, a billion-dollar merger is slipping away, and the janitor is their last hope. Jack Turner is 40 years old, but in the harsh fluorescent light of the hangar, his eyes look a century old. To the world, he is a ghost in a blue jumpsuit, a man who collects trash, empties ashtrays, and wipes away the footprints of the rich and powerful without ever leaving his own. He took this low-level contract job for one reason only: Noah. After the world collapsed around them, Jack needed a life that was quiet, a life where the ground was solid and the sky was just something he looked at through a window. The daytime shifts allow him to pick his son up from school, to cook a simple dinner, to be a father who is actually there, even if it means being looked down upon by people who wouldn't survive a day in his old boots. But Jack wasn't always a man who held a broom. 15 years ago, he was a legend in the high-altitude search and rescue world. They called him the Ghost of the Peaks. He flew helicopters into storms that made other pilots pray for land. He lived for the rhythmic thrum of the rotors, the vibration of the cyclic in his hand, until the accident. It was a rogue thermal in the Himalayas, a mechanical failure that no pilot could have predicted, a crash that left Jack with a shattered leg and a heart that was broken beyond repair. His co-pilot, his best friend, didn't come home. Jack spent 3 days in the snow, dragging his broken body and his friend's memory back to civilization. That day, Jack Turner died inside. He burned his flight logs and traded his flight suit for a mop. He chose the lowest, most invisible job he could find, just to stay away from the cockpit. The mere sight of a digital dashboard made his hands shake. He thought he could hide from the sky forever. Noah sits on a plastic crate, trying to ignore the insults. He knows his father isn't just a janitor. He remembers the nights his father whispers in his sleep, calling out flight coordinates and wind speeds. He sees the way his father's hands move with a strange elegance, even when he's just scrubbing a stain. Evelyn Cross walks into the hangar like she owns the air molecules themselves. Because in this zip code, she does. She is the architect of Cross Aviation, famous for being ruthless, for valuing the bottom line over the people who build it. To her, people are either assets or obstacles. A janitor, he's just background noise. "The flight leaves in 20 minutes, Evelyn barks, her voice echoing off the corrugated steel walls. "The partners are waiting in Zurich. This merger is the culmination of 3 years of work. It's worth billions. Why is my bird still on the ground? I pay for perfection, not excuses." The pressure in the hangar is suffocating. The technicians are sweating through their branded polo shirts, crawling over the engine cowlings like ants. The diagnostic computers are screaming in high-pitched beeps, flashing red warnings that suggest a total system failure. "We've checked the fuel lines. We've checked the digital ignition sensors. We've run the subroutine bypass 3 times, the lead engineer shouts, his voice cracking. The computer says everything is fine, but it simply won't ignite. It's like the soul of the machine is gone. From the shadow, Jack observes. He doesn't move. He doesn't speak. He continues to mop the perimeter, but his ears are tuned to a frequency the engineers can't hear. He knows these engines. He knows their breath, their rhythm, and their flaws. He hears it. He hears the way the turbine coughs. A tiny, almost imperceptible metallic click that happens right before the starter cuts out. He smells the faint, bitter scent of ozone mixed with a specific hydraulic fluid. He knows that sound. It's a sound he heard 1,000 times in the rescue service, when the high-altitude pressure caused the governor arms to bind. He goes back to his mop. "Don't look up, Jack. It's not your problem. You're just the man with the bucket. Stay in the shadows. Stay safe." Evelyn is pacing now. Her high heels click against the polished concrete like a ticking time bomb. Every click is $1,000 lost. She stops in front of a junior tech and stares him down until he looks away. If this helicopter doesn't lift off in 10 minutes, someone is getting fired, she says, her voice dropping to a terrifying whisper. Find me a solution or find a new career. I don't care if you have to pray to the machine spirits. Get it in the air. Jack stops. He looks at Noah, who is watching the chaos with wide, frightened eyes. Noah sees his father as a hero, no matter what color his jumpsuit is. Jack feels the weight of that look. He feels the old fire, cold and buried under years of floor wax, beginning to spark. He looks at the helicopter, the Eurocopter H-160, a machine he once loved like a brother, and the machine that took everything from him. He takes a deep breath. The air tastes like jet fuel and regret. The janitor is about to break his silence, and he knows that once he does, he can never go back to being invisible. Evelyn's patience hasn't just worn thin, it has evaporated into a toxic mist. She is tearing into the senior engineers, her insults becoming more personal, more sharp. I pay you 6 figures to be the smartest people in the room. I hired you from the top aerospace firms in the world, and yet a pile of titanium and software is beating you? A young technician, his hands trembling so hard he drops his wrench, whispers, Ma'am, it might be the fuel control linkage deep in the housing. We need to strip the entire secondary stage. It's the only logical explanation the AI is giving us. The sensors are reporting a ghost fault in the pressure manifold. That will take CX hours, Evelyn screams. I don't have 6 hours, I have 6 minutes. Does anyone in this entire company have a brain that isn't connected to a tablet? Jack is mopping near the landing gear now. He's so close he can see the faint vibration in the engine casing as they try to force a start. He sees the grime on the primary actuator. He sees the engineers over-tightening the wrong bolts. Without thinking, his old instincts override his fear. He speaks. His voice is low, gravelly, but steadier than any sound in that room. That's not the issue. Your AI is looking at the symptoms, not the cause. You're bleeding pressure through the primary vent because the governor is stuck. The hangar goes dead silent. The sound of a drop bolt echoing is the only noise for 5 long seconds. The engineers stop. The CEO stops. Even the massive ventilation fans in the ceiling seem to slow down as if to listen. Evelyn turns slowly, her heels grinding into the concrete. She looks at Jack's scuffed work boots, then up the stained blue jumpsuit, then finally at his face. She laughed, a cold, dry sound that has no humor in it. It's a sound of pure, concentrated condescension. Excuse me? Did the floor wax fumes go to your head, janitor? Or did you find a PhD in aerospace engineering at the bottom of your bucket? Jack clears his throat, ignoring the sting of her words. He looks past her, toward the open engine cowling. The fuel linkage is fine. If you strip that housing, you're just wasting time and risking a seal leak. The problem is physical, not digital. The governor arm is bound by thermal expansion. The lead engineer steps forward, his face a deep shade of crimson. Who the hell do you think you are? You clean the toilets, pal. You mop the spills we leave behind. We build these engines. We are certified by the FAA and the manufacturer. I've been doing this for 20 years. Get back to your mop before I have security drag you out of here and blacklist you from every airport in the state. You're a liability. Evelyn steps closer to Jack, in invading his personal space. She smells like expensive French perfume and pure, unadulterated arrogance. She enjoys the height advantage her heels give her. Stick to mopping the floors, Jack, she says quietly, the threat hanging in the air like a guillotine. At least you're competent at that. Don't confuse a broom for a wrench, and don't confuse your feelings for engineering. You are a janitor. You are hired to be invisible. Act like it. Noah lowers his head in the corner, his face burning with shame for his father. He wants to stand up, to tell them his dad is a pilot, but his father's eyes tell him to stay quiet. Jack doesn't argue. He doesn't defend his past. He just stands there holding his mop like a staff, looking into Evelyn's eyes. He sees the desperation behind her anger. He knows she's terrified of failing. But his eyes are locked on the engine's governor arm, visible through a small inspection port. He can see the slight 3 millimeter tilt that indicates a mechanical binding. If you try to start it one more time with the bypass active, Jack says, his voice devoid of emotion, you're going to shear the main drive shaft. And then this bird will be scrap metal. You'll lose the engine, the contract, and probably your reputation. Evelyn scoffs, turning her back on him with a flourish. I don't take advice from people who get paid by the hour to empty trash cans. Lead engineer, try the ignition again. Full manual bypass mode. Force the start. Now. Jack watches. He knows exactly what is coming. He looks at Noah and whispers, cover your ears, son. It's going to be loud. If you'd like to see how this moment unfolds, you're welcome to subscribe and continue with us for the shocking conclusion. The lead engineer climbs into the pilot's seat, his movements frantic. He flips the heavy red toggles for the manual bypass. The starter motor begins to whine, a high-pitched, desperate sound that rises into a mechanical scream. Whir, whir. Then, a sickening, bone-jarring clunk. A thick cloud of acrid gray smoke belches from the exhaust ports. The engine screams in a pitch that sounds almost human, then dies with a pathetic, metallic rattle that vibrates through the floor. The smell of burning electrical components fills the air. Total silence falls over the hangar. Even the engineers look horrified. They've just killed a $15 million machine. Evelyn's face goes from red to a deathly, translucent pale. Her phone vibrates in her hand. A call from Zurich, the partners. The deal is slipping through her fingers like sand. She looks at the smoke, her eyes glassing over. What happened? She whispers, her voice barely audible. It's seized, the engineer says, his hands shaking as he climbs out of the cockpit. The main shaft, it's jammed. He was right. We sheared the coupling. It's dead. We need a heavy lift crane and a month in the shop. I don't know what to say, ma'am. Jack sets his mop against the wall with a deliberate click. He walks forward. This time, he doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't wait for an invite. He moves with the authority of a captain on his own bridge. He walks right past the elite engineers who part for him like the Red Sea. He walks right up to Evelyn Cross, who is staring at her broken machine in shock. Your governor arm was misaligned, Jack says, his voice ringing through the cavernous space. When you force the ignition and bypass, you jam the throttle plate and torque the shaft. It's a 10-minute fix if you have a steady hand and someone who knows how to manually reset the timing. But you have to do it by touch, not by the computer. One of the older mechanics, a man who has worked on rotors for 40 years, curious and desperate, leans in and shines a high-intensity flashlight into the dark recesses of the turbine where Jack is pointing. He freezes. His eyes go wide. My God, the mechanic whispers, turning to look at Jack with a mix of awe and terror. He's right. The arm is pinned at a 45-degree angle. How did he see that from the floor? He's absolutely right. The sensors missed it because it was a mechanical bind, not a circuit failure. Evelyn looks at the mechanic, then at the janitor. The clock on her phone shows 5 minutes left before the meeting starts. She has 5 minutes left before her legacy vanishes. She looks at Jack's hands, rough, dirty, but steady. Fix it, she says, her voice cracking with the weight of her surrendered pride. Jack doesn't move. He folds his arms, the blue fabric of his jumpsuit tight across his broad shoulders. I don't work for your engineering team, Miss Cross. I'm just the janitor. I believe I have some floors to wax in the East Wing. Since my feelings aren't engineering, I should probably stay in my lane. Evelyn swallows her pride. It's a bitter, jagged pill. She looks at the engineers, then back at Jack. She realizes she has spent her life looking at titles and missing the man. She realizes she's the one who is truly out of her league. Please, she says, the word tasting like ash. Fix it? I was wrong. I was arrogant. I'll pay you whatever you want. I'll double your salary. Triple it. I don't want your money, Jack says. I want you to remember that every person in this hangar has a story you know nothing about. Respect isn't something you buy. It's something you give. Jack nods. He walks to a stainless steel sink, washes the floor grime and the bucket water off his hands with surgical intensity. He unzips the top of his blue jumpsuit, peeling it down to his waist and tying the sleeves around his hips. Underneath, he's wearing an old faded gray t-shirt that shows the corded muscle of a man who hasn't stayed soft, but it's the object on his wrist that stops everyone's heart. It's a professional Breitling emergency flight watch. Scratched, worn, the leather strap dark with age, but the hands move with absolute chronometer precision. It's the watch of a master pilot. The engineers recognize it instantly. It's the watch given only to elite rescue pilots. The engineers step back in a wave of silence as Jack reaches into the hot, smoking engine. He doesn't use a manual. He doesn't hesitate. His fingers move with a memory that predates his grief. He's talking to the machine, his lips moving silently. Click, snap, slide. "Try it now," Jack says, stepping back and wiping a streak of oil onto his pants. The engineer turns the key with a trembling finger. The turbine roars to life. Not a cough, not a sputter. It's a perfect, smooth, terrifyingly powerful purr that sounds like a predatory cat. The smoke clears almost instantly as the cooling fans kick in. The hangar holds its breath. But Jack isn't finished. The adrenaline is finally pumping through his veins after 15 years of hibernation. The ghost is waking up. "The pilot hasn't arrived yet," Evelyn says, frantic now, checking her watch. "The traffic is jammed. I need to be in the city center in 10 minutes or the deal is dead. I've fixed the machine, but I have no one to lead it." Jack looks her in the eye. The shake in his hands is gone. The sky is calling his name. He feels the pull of the clouds, the promise of the horizon. "I'll fly you!" The engineers gasp. Evelyn laughs nervously, her eyes darting to his janitor's pants. You're a janitor, Jack. You fixed the engine. Thank you. I'll write you a check for $100,000 right now. But flying, that requires certifications. It requires... "I have 5,000 hours in this specific airframe," Jack interrupts, his voice like iron. "I flew medevac in the Rockies for a decade. I've landed on moving destroyers in Force 8 gales when the deck was pitching 20 feet. I was the ghost of the peaks. My license is still current, Ms. Cross. I keep it active because I promised my friend I'd never truly leave the sky." He steps closer to her, his shadow falling over her. "Or you can stay here and watch your billion-dollar empire die on the concrete. Your choice, Ms. Cross." Clock's ticking. Evelyn Cross looks at the man in the half-zip jumpsuit. She sees the calluses on his hands. She sees the iron in his gaze that she had mistaken for simple dullness. She sees a warrior who has been hiding in plain sight. She sees the only person who can save her. She nods. Once. "Do it. Fly me to Zurich." Jack grabs a carbon fiber flight helmet from the rack. He tosses his mop to the stunned lead engineer. "Keep that warm for me. I'm not done with my shift yet. There's a spot by the elevator that still needs buffing." Noah stands up from the corner, his book forgotten. He's gripping the safety rail, his heart hammering against his ribs. His dad, the man who cleans floors, is climbing into the captain's seat of the most advanced helicopter in the world. He looks like a king reclaiming his throne. The rotors begin to blur. The sound becomes a physical force, a low-frequency hum that vibrates in their teeth. Jack goes through the pre-flight check with a speed that makes the engineer's head spin. Jack feels the cyclic in his right hand and the collective in his left. For a split second, the ghost of the crash flashes before his eyes, the smell of burning pine and the sound of screaming metal. His heart spikes. He sees the snow. He feels the cold. Then he looks at Noah through the hangar window. He sees his son's pride. He sees the little boy salute him. The fear vanishes. The cold of the past is burned away by the heat of the present. He pulls back on the collective with a movement so fluid it's almost poetic. The helicopter lifts, perfectly level. Not a single wobble, not a single inch of drift. It's the most perfect vertical takeoff the engineers have ever witnessed. "Tower, this is N160 Cross." Jack's voice is steady over the radio, requesting immediate clearance for downtown transit. "We have a CEO on a deadline." In the back, Evelyn is strapped into the leather seat. She's used to luxury travel, but this is different. The way Jack handles the controls, It's like the machine is an extension of his own nervous system. There is no lag, no hesitation. He weaves between the clouds as if he can see the paths the wind carves through the sky. He pushes the nose down, and they streak across the airfield, rising high above the hangar, high above the clouds of doubt. Jack performs a quick, aggressive safety check at 500 feet, a sharp bank to the left, a hard tilt to the right. He's testing the machine, and he's reclaiming his soul. The engine sings under his touch. "I've never felt a pilot fly like this," Evelyn whispers into the headset, her voice filled with a rare, genuine awe. "It's like the helicopter is happy. That's because most pilots fly by the book," Jack's voice crackles in her ears. "I fly by the wind, and right now the wind wants us to be on time." The landing pad at the destination is a tiny circle of concrete on top of a 70-story skyscraper, surrounded by other glass towers. The wind is whipping between the buildings, creating dangerous canyon turbulence that would ground any normal pilot. Jack doesn't flinch. He reads the gust before they hit. He brings the multi-ton machine down, hovering inches above the concrete with the grace of a dragonfly. He holds it there for a heartbeat, then sets it down so softly, Evelyn doesn't even feel the wheels touch. It's like landing on a cloud. He shuts down the engines. The high-pitched whine of the turbine fades into the sound of the city wind and the distant sirens. The silence that follows is heavy with the weight of what just happened. Jack stays in his seat for a moment, his eyes closed, soaking in the sensation of being a pilot again. Jack removes his helmet. He looks out at the city skyline, the sun reflecting off his tired face. He did it. He flew. And he didn't crash. He didn't let his friend down. Evelyn sits in the back, unmoving. Her heart is still racing. She has seen the best pilots money can buy, but she has never seen a master at work until today. She has never seen a human being so perfectly in tune with a machine. Jack steps out and opens her door. He doesn't say a word. He just waits. The sleeves of his janitor's jumpsuit still tied around his waist, grease on his face, but his head held high. She steps out, her legs a little shaky. She looks at him, really looks at him, for the first time in the 6 months he has worked for her. "I didn't even know your last name," she says softly, her voice humbled. "You didn't need to," Jack replies. "I was just the guy with the mop. You had a merger to win." Evelyn stands on the rooftop, the wind blowing her silk hair across her face. She looks at Jack Turner, the man she mocked an hour ago, the man she treated like furniture, the janitor. "Who are you really?" she asks, her voice losing its edge, replaced by a profound curiosity and a newfound respect that borders on reverence. Jack wipes a smudge of grease from his cheek with the back of his hand. "I'm the guy who knows this aircraft. I'm the guy who knows that a title doesn't tell you a damn thing about a person's worth. And I'm a father who wants his son to know that no matter how low you fall, you never lose your skill. You can mop a floor today and conquer the sky tomorrow." Evelyn looks down at her $1,000 shoes, then back at his grease-stained pants. She thinks of the billion-dollar deal she's about to sign, and she realizes it's worth nothing compared to the lesson she just learned. I owe you more than an apology, Jack," she says. She turns to the waiting executives who have come out to meet her, the men she was so afraid to fail. "Everyone, listen up," she points to Jack. "This man just saved this merger. He saved this company. He saved me, and he did it while being insulted, humiliated, and dismissed by every single one of us, especially me. I called him just a janitor. I was blind." She looks at Jack, her eyes shining with a new kind of resolve. "I want you back in my company, Jack, but not with a mop. I need a head of global flight operations. I need someone who actually understands the soul of the machines and the dignity of the people who run them. I'm offering you a 7-figure contract, a seat at the executive table, and the authority to overhaul our entire safety protocol." Jack looks back toward the horizon, where he knows Noah is waiting back at the hangar. He thinks about the quiet life he tried to build. He realizes he can't hide in the shadows anymore. Not if he wants Noah to truly soar. He needs to lead. "I have conditions," Jack says, his voice echoing with a new authority that makes the other executives stand a little straighter. Evelyn doesn't blink. Name them. Anything. You have my full support. 1. Total transparency. If a machine isn't safe, it doesn't fly, no matter how much money is on the line. No more bypasses. 2. We build a scholarship fund for the kids of the ground crew, the invisible people. We give them a path to the cockpit. And 3. My son comes with me on every inspection. He needs to see what real work looks like. He needs to see that heroes come in all uniforms. Done, Evelyn says, without a second of hesitation. She reaches out her hand, not as a superior, but as a partner. She smiles, and for the first time, it's a warm, human smile. Jack looks at her hand. He doesn't shake it yet. He simply says, I'll send you the contract after I finish my shift. I still have the East Wing to mop. A deal is a deal, and my shift isn't over until the floor shines. As Jack walks back to the helicopter to fly back to his son, he realizes something profound. The crash 15 years ago didn't define him. His jumpsuit didn't define him. His silence didn't define him. The world might see a janitor, or they might see a pilot. But Jack, for the first time in 15 years, he finally sees a hero in the mirror. He sees a man who can clean the ground and touch the stars. Respect is earned in the dirt and the grease, but it's the only thing that truly carries you to the clouds. Sometimes, the person you overlook today is the only one who can save your life tomorrow. Don't look at the title. Look at the hands. Look at the heart. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe for more tales of hidden legends. Respect should never depend on titles. It should depend on the heart beneath the uniform.